It go like, oh, me for so fucking done with you, girl.
Joining me now, Nigel Farage, former leader of the UK Independence Party and a former member of the European Parliament, and now a Fox News contributor. Nigel, good to have you with us tonight.
Thank you.
My goodness, where is all of this headed?
Well, look, it's very simple. The British people had a referendum to decide on our future. We voted to leave the European Union, to leave its court, to leave its lawmaking processes, to take back control of our borders and our money. Simple as. And yet, this Prime Minister, Theresa May, who incidentally was a Remain voter in the referendum, presented a plan at Chequers, the country house of the British Prime Minister, on Friday that basically said we would still stay part of many bits of the European Union, including the customs union, the lawmaking process, all of which would mean we were taking rules from elsewhere without having a say. It would prevent us probably from having a trade deal with America and other countries. And it was nothing less, Martha, than a total betrayal of what people had voted for in that referendum and a general election. Now, Boris Johnson kept quiet for 48 hours. I think he's now sensed where the wind is blowing, and by resigning, he's done the right thing.
All right, so where are the winds going? I mean, does Theresa May get pushed out, or does she come back closer to you and Boris Johnson? Do you, as you said on radio, get back in? Do you leave the UKIP party once again and try to become Prime Minister yourself?
Well, do you know something? I was a businessman. I got involved in politics because of this European question, because I wanted us to be an independent, free, self-governing, democratic nation. I fought for 25 years to get that referendum and the result we got. And if they're going to throw it out of the window, then I will be back fighting them with even more vigour than I had last time. I personally believe that the Prime Minister will be gone within the next fortnight. And then we have a chance to get a Prime Minister, a leader of the Conservative Party that holds faith with 17.4 million voters who voted leave in what was the greatest democratic exercise in the history of my islands.
So you think there is the political will to push her out, to have a vote of no confidence in a fortnight? I mean, what happens? So then you've got President Trump coming in on Wednesday evening. He'll be there Thursday to meet with Theresa May, to meet with the Queen. What kind of UK is he going to be facing in a few days?
Well, President Trump, I think, will be very frustrated. He believes in Brexit. I know that. I've discussed it with him. He believes in the nation state, not these new globalist supranational outfits. And the president's going to be furious, isn't he, that Theresa May wants to tie us into something that would stop us having a proper trade deal between the US and the UK. My guess is that President Trump will say some quite tough things when he comes to the UK, and he'd be right to do so.
So if she is pushed out in a fortnight, as you say, who's going to replace her?
Well, Boris, of course, Johnson will always favour himself as being the man that gets there. There's an old saying in Conservative politics that the favourite rarely wins. There is an outside horse, somebody called Jacob Rees-Mogg, who to American viewers will appear like a sort of 18th century English country gentleman. He's very old-fashioned, he's very charming, but he's very genuine. And I would say between Boris and Jacob Rees-Mogg, one of those two will take the crown. All
right. I want to ask you a quick question, and I'm going to see you when we get to London shortly. This blimp that Sadiq Khan, the mayor of London, has approved to fly over your city while the president is there in protest. How do you feel about that?
It's an insult. You know, whatever Sadiq Khan thinks about President Trump, he should not put that personal enmity above the fact that President Trump, like him or not, is the leader of the biggest and most important country in the world. And I cannot imagine any other city in the world that would fly a blimp, you know, an insulting blimp of the president above their parliament on the day of his visit. Sadiq Khan is a total disgrace.
Let me ask you about the NATO meetings as well, because there's concern that President Trump is basically sending the message that either you're in for the amount that you said you would be in for to all of these countries, and I think that, most people understand that argument, or you know, perhaps we pull out troops. There's a concern about that. Perhaps the United States doesn't keep its traditional role as part of NATO. And that dynamic changes. Would that send Germany into a position where they feel that they are the leadership militarily in Europe? What do you think about that?
This is the great untold story. NATO has been there since the late 1940s. It has been a great, successful military alliance. And of course, the Americans have been very much the senior partner in all of this, with us playing a role as number 2. We've now got to a position where out of 29 nations, only 6 of them are paying the basic membership fee of 2%. The rest, frankly, are taking America for a ride. And the President is right to call them on this. But there's another dynamic at work, which is this. The European Union now has pretensions for its own army, its own air force, its own navy. And the President of the European Commission, Jean-Claude Juncker, is telling the Germans and the French and everybody else they only need to pay 1% into defence, not the 2% that NATO demands. So, you know, what happens at NATO is even more important than what happens in London. And I think Trump is right, and European citizens need to realise that America could walk away from guaranteeing their protection. It's time Europeans grew up and got real. Well,
we'll see if they're interested in a discount on national security in Europe. So, Nigel, thank you. We'll look forward to seeing you.
Thank you.